Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of Wellbeing Wednesday, where Louise Thompson and I have the pleasure of interviewing a remarkable woman from rural, regional, and remote Australia. And we are tapping into their wellbeing wisdom. And I would like to welcome our guest today, Raylene Hall, who joins us from 1,000 kilometres north of Perth. Raylene, where actually is it?
Good morning, Cynthia and Louise and everybody else. Yeah, I'm actually cheating a little bit because I'm in Perth at the moment, but our home is 1,000 kilometres northeast of Perth. We're 210 kilometres northeast of a small inland town called Meekatharra. I don't know if many people would have heard of it, about 800 k's inland from the coast, and we're just down in Perth just for a week with my husband having some medical appointments. So, but normally I would be up at the station.
Fantastic. So Louise is going to be in the driver's seat today asking the questions. And this is being recorded so that we know that many people really love catching up in their own time, that sometimes it's a bit tricky to make the middle of the week at 1 o'clock. But we're hoping that people just grab their lunch and join us. And we've actually made an executive decision. We put it back to 45 minutes because we kind of thought, oh, we got some feedback, could it be a bit shorter? But then we keep running out of time because we've got all these fantastic women to talk to, and it's like we need the time. So we've made an executive decision. We're back to an hour. And if you need to leave a little bit earlier, that is totally fine with us, and you can catch up a bit later or just leave it at that. So, because we're finding that we're missing out on just digging in a bit deeper. So I'll hand over to Louise now to interview Raylene.
Thank you, Cynthia, and welcome everyone to our 21st episode. So it's a 21st birthday celebration, and I suppose, Raylene, you could be it's your 21st. You're in the hot seat. And we were just saying that only a couple of weeks ago that, and I'm just looking to my left, I've got a board with everyone's names. So a couple of weeks ago, episode 19 was Tiani Cook. So she was really, would you say remote, Cynthia? That was remote, but she was in kind of the Alice Springs area. And for your information, but you might already know, Raylene, quite a few weeks ago, we interviewed Tanya Keto, the lupin farmer. So that was probably the furthest we'd been, given I'm in the southeast burbs of Melbourne, Sandhurst. So we're in Mask City at the moment. So I don't know what it is, 3,000 k's away from you, Raylene, and I'm still mesmerised that I can see you and we can have this chat. Likewise with everyone else. So welcome, Raylene, and those that have joined us. And if you're joining us, tell us where you're beaming in from, and if you're wearing a mask or not. I'd love to see some nice photos of some cool masks. Oh, Cynthia, you're mouthing.
In Victoria now, we all have to wear masks. So for those Vics of us, we are regional, rural and metropolitan are all masked up now. And Nikki's maskless from near Roma in Queensland. So hello,
Rub it in.
Heidi, no. Heidi, no masks needed in Hobart yet.
Yeah.
Or WA.
Or WA. So, yes, but near me in Benalla this week, a little town called Tatura, they've had some outbreaks. Apparently someone just kind of knew they had COVID and got around town. And so the local pharmacists got it and anyway, it's coming closer, but...
So I'm just celebrating the fact that I can wear lipstick. Because you don't really need to wear it around the house. I've got it on the office in case anyone zooms in quickly, and I quickly put it on. But yeah, I'm just feeling pretty good that I can wear my lippy today. So this is not about me, Raylene. This is all about you. And So I always like to do a little bit of research, what I can, about who we're interviewing. So you're not on the cattle station, but you are in Perth, and that's good to know. But I'm just curious about is it pedals? So start telling us, what's that? Is that a hobby, or is that your business? Are you a writer?
Yeah, thanks, Louise. Pedals is actually the Australia-wide magazine of the Isolated Children's Parents Association, which is a lobby group I belong to. Their lobby is equity of access for education for children in the bush. Back in 2005, I took on the role. I've been involved with ICPA basically since I started at the station, or when I moved to the station, and went through all the roles at a branch level, and then was at a state level for some time. And then in 2005, I was given the opportunity to be the voluntary editor of the magazine, which was great. And I worked with a publisher for a couple of years. And then the publisher decided that it was time for her to step back, and I was offered the opportunity to publish the magazine, which was, at the time, it was a really tough time in my life. I had a sister dying of cancer, and I was with her, and I was discussing it with her in January, because she died in the January, so it was early January. And she said to me, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so I thought, well, what the hell? So I gave it a go, and 13 years later, I'm still doing it, love it. It's my small business, so world when I've wanted to, which has been amazing, but that's come to a sudden end. So that's what Pedals is, and that's how I became involved in it.
And how many recipients are there of it, and how do they receive it now?
The organisation has, I think, roughly around 2,500 members across Australia at the moment. Each member receives a copy of the magazine as part of their membership. So it's mailed out. It's not an online magazine at this stage. It's a hard copy, which I think a lot of people enjoy. And it's fabulous because it's the majority of the contributions in it are from ICPA members. So it's not, I don't pay people to write for it, but we have such incredible talent out in the bush and branches and the things they do. The last issue was pretty much a COVID issue, and it was about it was just people just sending their stories, and it was, you know, how they dealt with COVID, where they were dealing with COVID, what they thought the future might look like. It's just the last issue was incredible, and I think it's going to sort of be a milestone issue that will be a real record of what 2020 was like for a lot of our ICPA members. So we also have subscribers, so people can subscribe if they're not a member, and some of the states and the Federal Council also have other types of membership. So they have a corporate membership or a school membership. So yeah, so I probably print, well, the printers print between 2,500 to 2,700 on a big issue. So yeah, that's how it works.
So like an ordinary person like me that is nowhere near remote, even though I am surrounded by farms where I live, I'm on a golf course, would I access the magazine, given they stopped publishing my favourite magazine, which I actually get from New Zealand, but gone?
Well, certainly as a subscriber, but also it's an interesting scenario with the ICPA, as the acronym is, not ICPA as a lot of parliamentarians would like to say, and we very quickly correct them. But we have over the years had discussions around the term isolated children, because for many people the issue has arisen that they go, we're not isolated, we're only 10 k's from town, or we're not isolated because we live in Broome, and Broome's got a high school and a campus of a university. The problem they're not seeing is that the isolated term is that you're isolated from education. Now that could be from early childhood through to tertiary. So you may have a primary school 10 k's away, but your children may be still isolated from their access to a high school or a tertiary school. They may be isolated from access to a program that they're desperate to do that's not available in their smaller centre. Their high school may only go to year 10. The university campus may not do all the courses they want to do. So that when we say isolated, we mean isolated from access to education rather than just your geographical location.
Let me just pick up on that term isolated. So for us, in the burbs and areas where we are having to isolate, it really has a negative connotation. But for you and all your recipients of not only your magazine, but just being remote, what is what are the lessons for us? What's the opposite of it? Because that's just your way of life, isn't it? That's normal, where it's not normal for us.
Yeah, I think it is, and that's where COVID's been such an interesting year in so many ways. And personally, I feel, the attitude, and a lot of the time it's tongue in cheek, but people go, well, isolation, big deal, we do it all the time. Well, yes, we do, because that's the life we live and that's where we chose to live. Yours is the exact same. It's your life you live and it's where you chose to live. And not everybody's cut out to live in isolation. And I personally, even after nearly, 37 years of living in isolation, I don't feel I'm cut out to be living in isolation, because I love social, I love company, I love people. And for people who are suddenly thrust into isolation, it can be incredibly daunting. And I think particularly there can be people in the cities who may have been isolated all their lives, not necessarily that people don't realise they're isolated. And I think COVID has shown us that it's shown us the best and the worst of people. It's shown us the craziness of, hoarding toilet paper, to going out to small country areas and wiping their shelves of groceries, to the best of people getting together and checking on their neighbours and making sure the elderly are okay and doing shopping for them. So I think if there's a lesson to be learned, is that isolation can be felt in many ways. It's not just geographical isolation, it can be mental isolation, physical isolation, and that at some point, I think, whilst there may be a few people that are quite content to always be isolated and be completely on their own, I think the majority of people struggle to a certain extent with any form of total isolation. And that's where I think, to me, that is the tragedy of people who die of COVID, particularly the aged people, the fact that they die basically in isolation, away from their family and friends.
It's terrible. Yeah, we just heard the numbers again for in Victoria. I think 21 deaths. And they are that today, overnight, the ages are older, even someone in their hundreds. So it's sad. So I picked up before that, so if you're in Perth, but you're normally 1,000 k's north, and you're saying now in your time of life, it's you feel more isolated now than ever. How's that affecting your well-being?
I have struggled with it a lot. I come from a family where depression and alcoholism have both played parts. So I feel that I've possibly suffered depression for many, many years before I ever realised what it was. I first sought help after my first child was born. I don't remember exactly what happened. He was a toddler. He did something. I gave him a little smack, but I didn't stop. And I found myself sitting on the floor with him in my arms. I was sobbing, he was sobbing. my husband came home and I said, I need to go away, I need some help. So I went and saw, I think, a psychologist at that stage, but it still took many years before I really got the help I needed, which turned out to be medication. And I have no qualms these days in saying that I take antidepressants because I just think it's so important for people to understand that it's an illness like any other. And when I think back to my mother, and she was the alcoholic in the family, and her depression, and I sort of always think, you know, egg chicken, which came first. She lost a child long before I was born, and I don't know how that was dealt with. I was told that my father didn't deal with it in any way, shape or form. So, you know, he was never spoken about by my dad. So there was all that kind of thing. So it took me many years to get myself on track. The period when I was teaching the children, which was over 20 years, whilst it was tough and I wasn't the ideal teacher, and I probably should have got a governess, but I wasn't comfortable with having somebody else in the house all the time. It gave me an outlet, it gave me a connection, it gave me other mothers who were teaching, it gave me camps and outings and teachers to talk to. So I struggled for a while after I finished teaching. I struggled when my children went to boarding school, especially my daughter, because she was the youngest and we were home together. There was a big gap between her and her brothers, so we were home together for her schooling period on our own, basically. So yeah, then I sort of struggled again, and then it was basically after 2007, which was just the most horrendous year, when I started doing the magazine and found that I was good at it, B, that I enjoyed it, that I could actually achieve it, and having an independent income. And that's not to say I was ever short of money, that my husband would have ever denied me anything, but just that having that personal income was just amazing. So yeah, I probably feel in some ways now I'm in one of the best spots I've ever been in mentally and physically. I've lost some weight in the last few months. I feel good about myself. We have a plan. I'm currently, as I said, in Perth, and I'm in our house in a suburb of Perth, which we will retire to in a couple of years when my sons take over the station. So I feel like I'm in a really, really good place. It'd be even better if I just knew that there wasn't summer every year and it didn't last so long and it wasn't so damned hot.
How do you cope with it? You mentioned that earlier before we started about the heat. How does that affect you?
Makes me very, very grumpy and very, very irritable. I don't know. I always say jokingly that my thermostat doesn't work because I'm definitely a cold weather person. I've travelled overseas to Northern Hemisphere countries and just loved it, and had all the people in the tour group going, "Aren't you cold? Don't you want a coat?" And I'm going, "No, I love it." But we've got a couple of air conditioners, but we still sleep outside, and we have portable air coolers and that. But it's so long and it's so relentless. And I just find that I can get warm in winter, but I struggle to get cool in summer. And of course, you know, hot flushes really add to the fun and games of all that sort of thing as well.
Oh, our bodies. Broke thermostat, menopause, all those things, dear oh dear. Nosh, I don't know if you're the only bloke on the call, but you are lucky. So when you're on the station, if I had Fiona Lake with her drone, another past person we've interviewed, if she had her drone following you around for the day, what well-being type activities would we see you do from waking hours to sleeping?
Okay, well, probably up until, well, actually, if I go back probably 2 years, the Christmas of 2018, we'd been in Perth just in early December. and this is going to sound a bit gross, but it's the only way to explain it. I had an upset tummy and I thought, oh, well, 24-hour WOG. So I didn't say anything to my husband because we were due to go home, and I knew he'd say, oh, well, we'll stay a bit longer. And I knew he wanted to get home. So I thought, oh, no, I'll be fine in the morning. But yes, travelling home wasn't much fun, and there's not a lot of pit stops along the way. So there was lots of running behind bushes and what have you. Anyway, I got home and things didn't settle down, and I had 2 or 3 visits to the doctor in Meekatharra over the next 4 or 5 weeks, and then ended up back in Perth to have a colonoscopy, and that didn't ascertain anything, but they did some biopsies, and it turned out that I had something called microscopic colitis, which I've also discovered that our family have a history of. So I was put on medication for that, or steroids actually, for 3 months. So unfortunately, they weren't the ones that blow you up like a balloon, thank God. And I was due to go to Africa for a fortnight's holiday, and I did manage to go, but it was it was a bit tricky at times, but I got through it. So that was, and that led to me losing 6 kilos. And by that stage, I'd got up to 96 kilos. Now, I've always struggled with my weight from a tiny little kid. And so having lost that 6 kilos, I thought, well, you know, come on, make an effort, try and keep it off, maybe get rid of a bit more. So I persevered and didn't get very far. Then in September last year, we decided to take a dog belonging to a friend of ours because she wasn't suited to the city. So I took this dog home and started walking her on a lead. Well, what a joke that was. I had one arm longer than the other because she had no idea what a lead was. And she's got this really strange breeding on her papers, which says Husky crossed with a Spaniel, but she's got Kelpie or Border Collie or something in her because she just runs and runs and runs and runs. So I ended up having to get one of those control collars for her so that I could actually go out and walk her with the remote and keep her under control. So that started me walking every morning because she doesn't take anything like, oh, Sunday today I'll have a sleep in. It's no, mum, get out of bed, go for a walk. I'm scratching at the door. I'm going to drive you nuts until you do. So I started that, and then there was a small afternoon walk, and then so that kept going. And I lost a couple more kilos, and then the doctor was sort of saying to me, you need to lose some more weight. I'm like, yes, I know, will you stop harping? And then I came across an app or a program I'd seen on TV that used an app, so I thought I'd give that a try, and that's been quite successful for me because it talks a lot about the psychology and the reasons behind why you put on weight and what your triggers are, and you know, what makes you want to eat and all those sorts of things. So so on the back of that, I then did, and I'm not sure if you may have even had Joy McClymont on at some stage. Yes, right. Well, I decided then, I'd heard lots of women talk about Joy and her program. So I went on and joined a 30-day program with Joy. And so started doing that and found that a lot of Joy's activities I could incorporate into my daily walk. So it didn't necessarily mean I had to walk and then come home and do more exercises. So now I really feel like I'm on the right track to health and wellness. So that's what she would see. Fiona, didn't mean to say she. First thing in the morning, crawling out of bed when it's still dark and it's cold and the dog's dancing and carrying on like a lunatic. So off I go without a jumper because I know that within 10 minutes I'll be taking it off and I can't be bothered. So I'll walk probably for an hour, hour and a half. Then I'll come home, have a healthy breakfast, which is unheard of for me.
Which would be?
Possibly rolled oats is my preferred breakfast at the moment, and fruit, whatever fruit I've got. We're very fortunate to have beautiful fruit trees, so I might just go and pick a mandarin off the tree and have that for breakfast, and some bananas if we've got them. And then it's usually just the household chores, you know, making the bed, putting the washing on, and then probably down to the office to do some work in the office and I've had to, social media, as you can see, I could talk for Australia. I could talk underwater with a mouthful of cement. So
it's about you. I was looking at all your Twitter feeds, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah, you're on.
I was going to say social media is a bit of an issue. So I actually have a app on my desktop computer now where I can block myself from social media for a number of hours, so that I actually go down there and do some work rather than just tweeting and talking on Facebook. So,
so we don't miss it. What was the name of the app that you mentioned about the psychology and the eating?
Oh, right. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was correct to name it. But
yes.
It's called.
No one pays us.
It's called Noom, and it's actually Noom. So it's quite an unusual name, and it is American based. I will tell people that, and I'll also tell you that it's an interesting way of being able to access it, because it's not one of those things you can go to a website, read what it's all about, and then decide to join. You sort of go in, you put in your information, they sort of collate it and work out roughly, what you need to do. But they don't tell you, and then you get an option of trialling it for 2 weeks, and they give you, I find it really interesting, they give you 3 or 4 prices, and they say to you, what is it worth to you to try it for a fortnight? And so I think the most expensive was $14.95, and my thinking was, if I put 0, they're going to say you don't value it, so you can't trial it. So I thought $15, I would spend $15 on chocolates without a blink of an eye. So I thought it was worth it. So I did it. That's how I did it. So if anybody wants to try it and put in the 0, I'd love to see if you can still trial it. And then after the 2 weeks, I think it runs for about 4 months, and I think it was $160 for 4 months, which I felt was quite good value when it comes to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
back in your office, and you've banned yourself from social media. What else are you capturing on the drone?
Then it's sort of back to, depending if the men are home, it'll be back to the kitchen to do morning tea, and then probably back to the office till lunchtime, and I'll be either working, because I also voluntarily edit the newsletter for the ICPA of WA, which is only twice yearly, so it might be working on some of that. I also write a column for a newspaper in the Midwest Times, which I actually don't get paid for, but people enjoy it, so I enjoy writing it. So it might be like today is column day, so I'll be, racking my brains for something to write for the column.
Oh, you can write about
us.
I can.
Let people know.
Yes, exactly, because now I don't have to rack my brains for something to write about. So, that will definitely go down in today's column.
And just that whole racking your brain and typing, writing, is that your well-being as well? Would you classify that as, some mindfulness, or however you want to call it? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. When I'm in my head writing, or thinking about writing, or thinking about, or I'm doing the layout of the magazine, which I do a rough, not a whole layout, but I have what I call a storyboard, which I just put what I might have on each page. When I'm in my head with all those things, I find that I don't think about food, I don't think about eating, I don't think about, am I depressed or am I miserable or what have you. I actually find I get really flat once I've finished an issue of the magazine and it's gone off to the printer. I sit there and go, okay, what now? I'll go up the kitchen and do some work.
You've gone up and you've gone down.
Yeah, go up to the kitchen and do some work. Oh, I wonder what's in the fridge. I wonder what's in the cupboard, that sort of thing. So, I do sort of this kind of thing, being involved in something like this. This is a real plus for me. One of my really incredible moments, or not moments, but a period in time in the last couple of years, and that has led to a lot of my well-being and my sense of self-worth, was when I was, from day one, involved in the massive fight, and I'm sure you've heard of it all across Australia, when our state government over here popped in a little message before Christmas that they were going to close down all 5 of our schools of the air over here to save some dollars. And I got a message from a School of the Air mum saying they're closing our School of the Air, and I thought, oh, that's not good, one of them. And I sent her a message and said, what, Meekatharra, which is our School of the Air, although it's no longer located in Meekatharra. And she said, no, all of them. And I went, no, I don't think so. And from that, I started a Facebook page, which went to a Facebook group, which is still existing today, named now as Save Rural WA. And it's got something like 5,000 members in it. And we still discuss things that are happening in WA and things that we are important in rural areas. So that passion of doing the Facebook page, I did media interviews, I did letters to the editor, ICPA were working on it flat out as well, so I liaised with them. That culminated in the state conference in 2018, must have been 2019, I think it was, where I was awarded a life membership of ICPA, which was just such an incredible kudos that I didn't expect, but made me feel, you know, so good about myself. And there's lots of things that have culminated from the back of that. I was then invited to help lobby against the closure of a regional boarding college, which had also been cut in those, and we succeeded in that. And then I was invited as actually a paid consulting position to help do some social media for a fishing corporation over here to do with rock lobster fishing, because they were having a to do with the government over that. So I found that a lot of my passion and things were in that, to the point where I actually got asked if I was interested in running for politics, but I was
going to ask that.
Yeah, I did consider it for a short time, but I looked at it, the workload, my age, I was 59 at the time, and I just thought, no, I think I can do more from the outside than I could ever do from the inside, because I'd learnt so much in those last 2 years, whereas before I really knew nothing about politics, and I learnt about the background boys and the girls and the decisions that are made, and that as a single person, sometimes you can't make the difference you want to make. So I thought, no, I can, from the outside, I can say and do what I want.
So, okay, so like the volunteering, the writing, this lobbying, that's all passion work, which is great for your well-being. Back to home, you've maybe had lunch, and in the afternoon, anything else happening in the rest of the day for that well-being that's caught on the drone?
Not particularly, just their everyday chores and that sort of thing. I think what you probably would see, and I think anybody that has animals would know this, and I think this is why there was over here, and I'm not sure about other places, but certainly in Western Australia, they said the uptake of pets from foster homes, and that was huge, because people wanted a companion. And that's probably what they'd see, is that every now and then I'd be popping out to check where the dog is, what she's doing, have a pat, have a cuddle, have a chat to her, because they're so non-judgmental. And sometimes...
Not like cats.
Sometimes I still, you know, sort of wander around and think, you know, what do I want to do? Family distance is a huge thing for me, and I struggle because out of 4 siblings I grew up with, there's only one left alive. I lost a brother, a sister to cancer in 2007. 9 weeks later to the day on her birthday, I lost my brother to suicide. And in 2005, I lost my elder sister to ill health. So I struggle with all of that. And I struggle because I'm very, from a young age, I've been the glue that held the family together. I was the one that everybody looked to and relied on, even though I was the youngest. And I want to be that for all my nieces, nephews, great nieces, nephews. They don't seem to have the same need for it that I need it for. So I do struggle with that sometimes. And because none of them are, well, down here it is, but trips to Perth are always busy, and you try and catch up. But it's not a priority for them, put it that way. It's not that they don't care, it's not that they don't love me, but it's not a priority for them to see me every time I'm in Perth, whereas for me it would be to see them if I could. So I do struggle with that type of thing, and always have struggled with my self-image, about what I look like in the mirror to what other people see me as.
Oh, tell us more about that. Here's me talking earlier about who wear my lipstick. So
yeah,
self-image and...
as a young child, probably always, I have very few photos of me as a child. I really don't know why. Well, when I think back, from the beginning, my parents were older parents. So when I was born, I think my mother was probably around 42, 43. My dad was closer to 50. So I was a very late child. My elder sister was 14 years older than me. So I think probably Mum didn't have cameras in those days. I don't remember her ever taking photos with a camera. Dad had an old box Brownie, but I don't remember him ever using it. So probably by the time I came along, certainly probably overtaking photos of babies and children. But I do have a couple of photos of when I was smaller, and I was very much the little solid stump post type girl, you know, the little solid legs, and I took after my father. I was short and solid. And when I think back, my mum's cooking, Mum was a good cook, but she was her forte was unhealthy, beautiful foods, you know, the best and biggest sponge cakes with fresh cream from the milking cow, and, you know, gallons of milk and homemade butter, and we lived on a farm, so it was lamb. They weren't lamb chops, they were mutton chops with the, you know, the inch of fat that we used to all eat in those days. So and then I can remember as a teenager going to school at a high school in the next nearest town, and there was a cafe, and so it was the trend, we'd all go down the cafe and, you know, buy a pie for lunch, and with the pie I'd have a chocolate, and so it went on, and then I went to a new town for senior high school, and that was like going from the station to Perth. I went from a little high school with 5 of us in year 10 to Albany High School with I don't know, but, you know, probably 2,000 from year 8 to year 12. And so it took me probably 6 months to find a group that I was comfortable with. And by the time that had happened, you know, it was before we knew it, it was year 12 was finished and we were off again. I went to Perth to go to university, and again was just, I think, too big a milestone for me. It was too big a leap. And so I just wasn't coping. And so I ran away to be a governess, which is how I ended up in station country. But I've never felt comfortable with my weight, my body, what I wear, what I look like. And it doesn't matter how many times people tell me, you know, oh, you look lovely. I love your hair like that. I love that outfit, or what have you. In my head, in my crazy head, I'm saying, yeah, but. And that's where I'm finding Noom is actually slowly, very slowly changing my thinking. I can look in the mirror and go, hey, these jeans don't look so bad. In fact, they look pretty good. Or they look terrible because they're too big.
Fantastic. So what's the message for others then? I mean, why do we get so caught up in our image? And
I really don't know, and I wish I had the answer, and I wish I had a brilliant message. I've got a 25-year-old daughter, and I look at her and she's in the same place I was at 25 with a weight issue, and I struggle because I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, and I just look back and I think, how did I let that happen as a mother? You know, I went through it all. I think part of the difference too is she drinks, not to excess, but she drinks, whereas I don't. And, you know, alcohol is just empty calories, of course. But I'm not sure how I'd love to be able to tell people this is the answer. I mean, it's obviously from a very young age, having women or babies, girls believe in, not just girls though, girls and boys believe in themselves, but I think, you know, you have to believe in yourself before they can believe in themselves, and how you do that, I think it just goes back to generations and you know, what you've been taught. So I think anything that I would go to, any class or any, if I lived in the city or even online, anything, even things like this, to listen to other people speaking and to read books and to do anything or get any advice or help, you know, go to that dietitian, go to the doctor, go to, if it's depression that's affecting your image too, don't be afraid to go and say, you know, and I mean, when I have depression and I've been really, really down, and my depression usually manifests itself where I'll bite somebody's head off, or I literally want to just punch something. It's not that I want to go out and slit my wrists or climb up a windmill and jump off. I would never climb a windmill anyway because they're too damned high. So, but it's that feeling inside that I just don't know what to do with, and that's my tip for that I know I'm depressed. So it manifests itself in so many different ways. So if people are unsure, you know, what's going on, then and if you go to a doctor and they dismiss you, or you're not comfortable, go to another one. You know, don't worry if they say, well, you know, why didn't you go to, because they're not listening. Try it. I'm not sure. I think you can see a psychologist without a referral. So maybe try a psychologist. Try a friend. You know, talk to a really close friend and say, look, you know, are there times when you think, you know, something's just not right with me, or but get it out in the open and try to how would I say it? Yeah, just be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself is probably the message I would go. You know, whether you're bringing up children, whether you're looking after your husband or partner, whether you're looking after aged parents, or whether it's just you. Be kind to you, be kind to yourself. You know, I've got a friend that I travel with. She is just the most gorgeous woman. She's 10 years older than me. She's got physical health problems. She's got a weight problem. And yet to me, she is one of the most stunningly attractive women that you could ever see. I mean, I always look at people that are overweight and I think, oh, but look at your beautiful face. You know, I don't look at them and go, oh my God, how dare you go out and wear that or wear whatever. I just look and think, there, but for the grace of God go I can be that size. Or, you know, have they got a health problem? Have they got a thyroid problem? You know, so let's say that the message is be kind to yourself and not be so judgmental of others. You know, just look at them and go, you know, hey, gee, she's a big girl, but gosh, I wonder what's going on in her life. And, you know, is she working her butt off, or is she looking after someone, or, you know, is nobody caring for her? So, yeah, be kind and don't be judgmental.
Before we get some summarising, say some key tips from you, Raylene, Cynthia, are there questions or get those speckies on?
Comments. There's been a number of comments. So there's a few. I can't get to all of them because there are a lot of them. So Jane says, thanks, Jane. Another awesome app is Headspace. It has meditations for different situations, plus a great one every morning and ones to help you go to sleep. It's really helping with my well-being.
So that's Headspace?
Headspace.
Yeah.
Jeanette was saying, thanks, Raylene, for sharing about your son. And she also says your daughter just needs your loving support. All we can do, as we all do from our family and friends. Jane also says psychology services are available, subsidised because of COVID, and her referral from her doctor was a free appointment. Body image issues aren't gender specific, says Jeanette. Louise says many similar body issues here, work in progress. And it's funny, I just had a photo that came up as a memory that someone commented on Facebook.
Oh, yes, saw that.
And it was from 2011, I think. And I'm quite skinny in that. And yet every time when I look back on my earlier self and I go, oh my God, I was quite skinny. I was really skinny. I thought I was enormous. Always thought I was fat, really fat. And it's just bizarre. I just do not know where that came from. And you just think, Raylene, like you're saying, you just waste so much bloody time and energy and effort in thinking that it's totally distorted.
Yeah, yeah. I've got to recommend a book for us all. I'm just trying to see it in my little library. Is that Mirrored, Untamed by Glennon Doyle? And so Brené Brown, who we're fans of, I'm waiting for her to contact us, Cynthia, to interview us.
I know, Louise has asked her if she'd be on Wednesday.
Only $20,000 to have her on this. But so she does blame our mothers for our image, and we've got to get rid of the rules and standards that were set and set our own. Awesome book, absolutely awesome. As long as you don't mind a bit of a swear. Yeah, right, that's what it's all about. I didn't know that, but that's what it was about. It was about image. Now, Raylene, what about some, I think you've already given us quite a few tips, but were there tips at the top of your mind that you wanted to share with us?
Top three.
Top three?
3 tips. Gosh, that's difficult. Just on Louise too, blaming your mothers too. I look back at my mother's life, and she never had an easy life, and I don't think I feel that I could blame her, because she didn't know any better either. So hopefully as generations go on, we will know better. 3 tips. Be yourself. We are all unique, and we all have something to offer, regardless of whether we think we do or not. And if you don't think you have, try joining a voluntary organisation, because you will find that you have so much to offer and you'll get so much back. You'll learn and you'll get so much back. So, yeah, I think that, I think being kind to yourself is so important. We aren't kind to ourselves a lot of the time, whether we're male, female or whatever. So I think we need to think, try and see ourselves through other people's eyes. Instead of looking at the mirror and seeing yourself through your eyes, look at your mirror and think, what do other people say? They say, oh, gee, you've got lovely hair, or gee, your smile brightens my day, or whatever, and look and think, well, that's what they're seeing. Why can't I tell myself, well, that's what I'm going to see from now on. I'm going to see what other people see. And if that doesn't work, cover the damn mirror up. Just forget about the mirror. Put your lipstick on and then cover the mirror up. And a 3rd tip, I think, is probably it's never too late to start looking after yourself. For myself, probably makeup was never much in my realm, A, because I didn't really have any reason to use it, but B, because I never felt confident in using it and didn't know what to buy or where to go, until a beautiful neighbour that we've had got down here in Perth started selling a product which I fell in love with and have spent a fortune on it, and I have no regrets. I love every bit of it, and never going to wear it all in my lifetime, but I don't care. So yeah, it's and now I've completely, this is what happens when you've got menopause. I've completely lost track of what I was saying. What was
so that we should look after, never too old to look after yourself. This is
look after you, whether it be buying yourself some makeup or doing a weight loss program or going and doing some mindful, I really like the idea of mindfulness, just sitting and thinking in the moment, forget yesterday, forget what's ahead and being present in that moment. So that's probably, 45 tips, but kind of 3.
No. Right.
Raylene, can I ask you a really personal question that may be very inappropriate, so please feel free to not answer it. So I'm really interested in the menopause. How long has it been going on for you? Has it been going on for quite a while, or did it come and go?
It's really interesting, Cynthia, because I'm not 100% sure myself, actually, because I think it sort of started when I was early 50s, and it went for a period, and then I was fine and went for a period. That's kind of ironic. And then I thought, I well and truly thought I was over it. But just in the last probably 12 months or so, I've noticed what I think is hot flushes coming back. Just not so much at night time, occasionally at night time, but like in the middle, it's been quite, even though we live in the mid-north of WA, we still get the cold winters. We get like a desert climate, so really hot summers and the cold winters. And I'll be standing washing up the dishes at the sink, and everybody else has got 3 coats on and their own boots. And all of a sudden I fling the window open and I'm mopping my brow and carrying on, and they're all looking at me like, and so I haven't actually gone to the doctor and had any blood tests or anything to see if that's what it is, but that's exactly what it feels like. And I'm like, I'm not impressed if this is what it is coming back. But for me, the worst part of it, probably the mood swings were muted to a certain extent by being on my antidepressants, but the hot flushes, as somebody that doesn't like the heat, hot flushes were another thing altogether, so my husband and I were literally fighting in bed, get the rugs off, no, give them here, no, get them off. So, but yeah, if it is what I think it is in the hot flushes again, it's a long time, so I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Yes, it's so individual. It's that's why I was just interested, because I'm 49 now, but started at 46 with the peri, and which is still happening. And and I've just been fascinated to read some women just skip through it, no problems, and others, I think I read, and I'm so sorry if this is bad to say, but there's still women having hot flushes in their 80s.
I've definitely heard different.
Thought it was good to put it out there, just so we're not surprised if this happens to us.
Well, if there's a news bulletin any time, of an 80-year-old throwing her clothes off in the middle of Perth, you'll know who it is.
Love it. I can see that. Any questions while you're there, Cynthia?
Jane just says, damn menopause.
No.
Annalise says, good to see you, Raylene. Annalise Dolphin, good to see you, Raylene. An amazing mentor and leader, has shaped my journey in a volunteer capacity. Thank you.
Actually, I want to know, because I love tip number 2 about, because I've always been involved volunteering. If you haven't already, tell us in the chat room, do you volunteer and what do you do? Because I'd love to see that.
Arthur said, that's a good tip, appreciating others, but a question, why do we want ourselves to be seen from others' eyes? I'm just going to, Arthur, find you on my chat box and unmute you. Are you still there? 11.
So Raylene, Arthur is a frequent flyer. She does come on regularly, and she was episode number 17, our guest.
Arthur, I'm allowing you to talk.
Hello.
Would you just like to ask that question to Raylene in person?
Yep. So, thank you, ladies. It's a beautiful session. Hello, everyone. Raylene, it's a really insightful listening to your story. One of the questions I think we all struggle, and I think individuals, we always why are we always trying to please people or keep ourselves according to somebody else's expectations, other lens? Why is that we can't really get rid of it? And I know it's there could be different view of looking into it, but this is a question that really disturbs me, that why aren't we content in ourselves that we want to please others and make So I would like to hear what you have to say about this.
Thanks, Arthur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. I'm not sure, perhaps I didn't put it quite clearly. I'm not really saying that we should please others when I say looking at ourselves through other people's eyes, but I think other people see us often, see the good in us that we don't see in ourselves. They see the beauty in us. They see the, and I don't just mean physical beauty, they see that we care about others and that we are generous and kind and helpful to others. And sometimes it is even about our appearance and how we look, and we feel that in ourselves we just don't always have that ability to feel good about ourselves. But if we looked at ourselves and went, well, if everybody else thinks that I'm pretty, or if everybody else thinks that I'm a good, what am I trying to say? That I'm volunteering is a good thing, or that that I'm helping other people by doing this, that, or the other, then maybe that will help us feel better about ourselves when we don't seem to have that ability to make ourselves feel good about ourselves. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think from what I've learned, that some of us are more internally referenced. That's our mindset, where it actually is just, you know, we're pretty happy with ourselves and what other people think doesn't really matter. My father, Jerry, he is the most internally referenced person that I know. He does not give a rat's what anyone thinks, and it must be a great way to live. And then there's others of us that are more externally referenced, where we do worry, we use the opinions of others about how we feel about ourselves. So I think also I got some coaching once where we talked about being internally and externally referenced, and one of the tips for me in that was actually to just be aware of that and practice trying to borrow some internally referenced behaviour. Louise, I'm not sure if you've got any comments on that to add.
No, not really, but the whole borrowing's a great practice of seeing that probably that if you're over expressive or you're under expressive, that, you know, swap over and see it from the other perspective. We'll need to wrap up, Cynthia.
Yes, we do. It is 2 o'clock. So
next week we have Nikki Thompson.
We have Nikki Thompson. Yay. Nikki, is she still with us? Yes, Nikki's with us today. So we're very excited to have Nikki. Nikki came highly recommended as a woman with great wisdom. You know Nikki Raylene? Yes.
No, ICPA.
Yeah. So Nikki said earlier that you made such a huge difference to people in the ICPA community, and you did so much work, and she really respects you. So Nikki, we're so thrilled to have you next week. And thank you, Raylene. It was just really wonderful to speak with you today. And can I just say thank you so much for your honesty and your ability to really just talk about the real stuff that goes on. It's so helpful for us all to know that when we're experiencing those kinds of emotions, that we're not alone. And so I just am so thankful that I think it's just been such a valuable discussion, and we have covered, as we do every week, Louise, we've covered some issues that we haven't touched on before. So,
right.
So thank you.
And just on that, seeking professional help is so important. I'm just hearing, I work with 2 different psychologists on workshops, and it's not a happy place at the moment. They're seeing too many clients for all the wrong reasons. So and it's important that you do, but there's a lot of stuff going down. It's not good.
So just to finish off, we needed a little photo of us, and then I'm going to hang around for 10 minutes or so. Raylene, are you right to hang around just for a
sure.
chat?
Yep.
Louise, what are you doing? Do you have to go?
Yeah, no, I'm cool.
You're all right.
Still awake.
I'll get a little photo.
I've been on a conference today since 1 a.m. in the US, and so is Nosh, and we finished at 6:30 this morning, and I'm still going. I'm still going. We're back on at 1 in the morning again.
Okay, let's go. Function print screen. Everyone look lovely. Haha. Okay, hopefully that worked. Let me just double check. And yeah, over to you, people who can stay. I'm going to press stop. Oh, I should actually stop record first. See you, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks.